just wanted to very briefly comment on the question of Montgomery County's economy and whether we are in a strong position today. And there's been a lot of discussion lately about the strength of our job market and what the next 5, 10, 15 years look like. And my observation is that when you talk to people who live in this county, what you find is that people are experiencing generally, on average, not necessarily everyone, but an improving economy. And there are more jobs today than there were a year ago or 2 years ago, and unemployment is very low, and we are very fortunate to have such a strong employment base in this county. And we are experiencing generally improving incomes. And that has been a very positive trend. And we have really rebounded out of sequestration, which slowed down our economy substantially several years ago. And of course, sequestration followed on the recession. And so there were a number of years that were fairly sluggish, but over the last few, we have really been moving at a strong pace, and we are showing better outcomes than many of our most relevant regional competitors. And I think our average resident is experiencing a rising tide. So I think I'll leave it there and now turn it to you for any questions that you might have.
Figures that suggest that? I mean,
Absolutely.
We saw this presentation from Anir Basu of, I think it's SAGE Policy Group, painting a pretty grim picture about the future of Montgomery County.
Yes, well, SAGE is a group that produces reports that confirm what the people who paid them want to see. And you can find numerous examples of that, and I think in this case, the folks that hired them wanted to paint a very negative picture of Montgomery County, and so they released a report that did that. But it really conflicts with, I think, if you look out the window, what you see in the world around you. And that, of course, is always the smell test, which this one doesn't pass. But sure, a few examples. From 2010 to 2017, our county's gross regional product, which is a very relevant measure, grew by 24.2%, whereas Fairfax County's grew by 23.8%. From 2010 to 2016, our private sector job growth outpaced Fairfax County, 4.4% to 3.7%. Our private sector wage growth outpaced Fairfax County. Our resident employment growth outpaced Fairfax County. If you look at some of the Northern Virginia local governments, you'll see them having to contemplate more significant tax increases than we've had to contemplate. If you look at the news, you'll see that the office market in Montgomery County is actually performing better than many of our regional competitors that are applicable. And you're also seeing a lot of positive talk. There was recently a great story about the positive impact of the Purple Line and what a ripple effect it's having on the office market all up and down the corridor, including in Montgomery County. So generally speaking, again, since sequestration, the trends have been very positive, and we are on an upward path. And it is completely wrong to characterize our economy as somehow a death spiral. And it's really kind of laughable. But that is what, for some reason, this developer-funded think tank wanted to do. And so that's what they said, but that doesn't make it right.
What is not true in this report? What thing did they get factual errors?
Well, there's a lot of selective use of data, right? Data that, if you combine 4 or 5 points, seem to create a version of reality that is really a very distorted version of reality and is not an accurate portrayal overall. So that's fundamentally, whether one data point from one year to another year might have shown what that report shown isn't really the point. The point is step back and think, what are the most relevant data points for our community and for our economy? And what are those points? Well, they are job growth, wage growth, comparisons to applicable jurisdictions. Comparing Montgomery County to Loudoun County, that's not an applicable comparison. They are not our market comp. You know, Loudoun County is an exurb that's growing in a very different pattern than Montgomery County. And so, you know, we are generally in a much stronger position than that report would have you believe. Doug?
Well, one of the data points that he and others have pointed out is that of the several thousand businesses that have started in Maryland over the last 10 years, Montgomery County has started 6.
Yeah,
How do you
there's...
say that
How,
statewide
yeah.
that number isn't grim?
That is a very misleading number, okay? And how do you square that with our employment? How do you square that with our low unemployment?
Why is it misleading?
I think I'm going to have to refer you to council staff for the exact details about why this new business starts conversation is just out in left field, you know, but it doesn't correspond to the availability of jobs. It doesn't correspond to the fact of whether wages are rising or not. Those are the measures that matter. And so, you know, do we have challenges in this county? Of course, absolutely. I'm not here to say we've got it all figured out. Just the contrary. I mean, we are constantly working to reinvent our approach to economic development, to workforce development, to envisioning a future of this county that is, you know, right in line with where we know the economy wants to go, where the workforce wants to go. But this bizarre cherry-picked number about starts is not, that is one data point among many, and it's being vastly exaggerated. And it does not correspond to other data sets, BLS data sets. It does not correspond to other data sets. So you need to dig a little deeper on that one.
Okay, what does the BLS say? Since
I don't know if council staff is here, Gene, but I'll have to get you together with Gene after today.
Do you think the purpose of the report was as county executive, like it said, to frighten voters, to try to draw support for a pro-business candidate?
Well, I would dispute, first of all, that there's, you know, there are many pro-business candidates in this race, and there are many council members who have been very effective at advancing a pro-business agenda for Montgomery County. And I do think that the purpose of this report was to frighten voters, absolutely, and to, you know, create a very exaggerated spin. And so they were successful in doing that, you know, mission accomplished. But you know, the unfortunate thing about it is that it seemed to lend itself to whoever was willing to make the most incendiary comment about the report is seemingly the best at economic development, which is just, you know, a joke.
I was wondering if I could change the subject.
Yes, you definitely could.
So, as you may have heard, the circuit court judge sentenced who's infamously known as the Red Line Rapist to 2 life terms in prison. I was wondering if you could comment on that and the importance of people perceiving Metro as safe in terms of crime.
Yes, well, you know, first of all, we're very pleased that Metro now, once again, is back on track with capital funding. And a big part of getting riders back to Metro is perceptions of safety. And so we do need Metro to do a better job with providing security on the trains. And it's good to know that in this case, justice has been served. And I don't have a lot of detail about that case. So if you want to share some more facts with me, I can respond.
Sure. Both the judge and the prosecutor offered praise to Metro Transit Police for their quick response to a woman reporting that she had been raped on a train, and they were able to arrest the man the same day.
Good.
And there was also controversy about whether or not Metro should report crimes that have occurred if they already have somebody in custody. They hadn't initially reported this one. But,
Well, I know we've had differences with Metro about their reporting of crime, and we have pushed them to be more transparent about incidents that occur on Metro property and Metro parking lots and so forth. And I do think they need to do a better job of alerting and sharing that information and promoting a more aggressive safety culture.
have you noticed any change in that over the last year? I realize it's not something we're specifically. paying
Yeah,
attention
it's
to.
not something I've
That's fine.
had a chance to focus on recently.
There's a bill being introduced tomorrow regarding property tax credits for veterans and elderly. What's that all about?
That is, I think, sort of revising legislation that has already been passed at the council. And there was a state enabling bill that was then followed along with a county bill that allows certain people to apply for that tax relief. And I believe that this extends the timeline of the relief that you've been granted to, I think it's 5 years now, up from an annual, application. So the council will be considering this, and it has been an expensive item for the county, no question about it, and it certainly is part of our revenue challenge. So it's something we're going to have to, really consider carefully.
I think almost 2 years into the MCEDC, can you think of any major accomplishments or achievements they have?
Well, they did do a great job working with us on the Amazon application, and I think they've done a good job helping us think big picture about who we are and what our strengths are and where we're going. And they I will say they're still getting their legs, they're still hitting their stride, and we need to see them hitting some triples and doubles in the next couple of years.
What would be a triple or a double?
Well, we can start by getting Amazon, that's for sure. But we have had a number of successes, no doubt. I mean, there are a lot of more than bright spots, like white hot spots in our county economy, and they're part of our success. The growing biotech sector in this county, the fact that we are now a global hub for vaccine research, which is a huge part of the future health sector. These are very strong notes for us. So again, I think it's no matter how you look at the MCEDC, it's better than it was run as a county department by one of the Empower Montgomery folks. And we're making progress, but I do think we need to keep the pressure on there, and we need to continue to evaluate who's involved and whether we're being effective with our goal of bringing the business community to the table to collaborate with us.
What do you make of Discovery leaving? Is that a failure? Is that a sign of something in the county? Is that what this report's talking about? Or is that just like a one-off thing that has nothing to do with the business climate here?
Yeah, we went over this one quite a bit. Discovery is the reason that Discovery is leaving is because the industry as a whole is relocating to New York, and Discovery has already relocated a huge share of its company to New York, and they're bringing a lot of what's left there. But then those parts of the business that are can be located in a lower cost market, which up until now has been us, will be moved to Knoxville. And that is just a reflection of the changing media landscape. And we, for a time, thanks to Discovery, had a media cluster, and it's not as strong. So our biotech cluster is growing, our media cluster hasn't grown as much. I will say though that our ability to fill that building back up is what is important now. And I'm optimistic. I think today there's only about 1,200 people in that building. It's built for almost 5,000. And I'd like to, I hope that within a few years, we're going to have that building filled back up. And Silver Spring is going to be a lot better off when there's 4,000 people working in that building instead of 1,200. And our ability to fill that up is going to depend a lot on the kinds of priorities that this council has advanced. Funding for our metro, continuing to promote walkability and bikeability, creating nightlife and thriving urban districts with great restaurants and breweries and great schools in the surrounding area with quality parks. All of those factors are very present in Silver Spring and have helped made that one of the most interesting places in the Washington region. And I'm hopeful that we'll be successful in filling that building back up. And then in a few years, we'll be better off than we are now. And we're not, that building, again, it's more than half empty now. And we'd like to get that back and brimming with people who could be out, spending their money in downtown Silver Spring.
Just tomorrow will be the first day for the open forum in regards to the funding for residents that are facing deportation. There's been talk already, some of the non-immigrant groups that are not in favor of immigrants are basically saying that they're preparing for a lawsuit because they're against the county investing money for these residents. What do you say to that? And what do you say to the people that are, I've spoken to some residents that are just saying they're kind of fearful of expressing themselves, facing some opposition already and like counter protests just for expressing that they are in favor of the creation of these funds, for allocating these funds for residents?
I doubt there's any basis for a lawsuit, but of course, anyone is free to have a different opinion there. But I feel very positively about this initiative. I think we are really doing the right thing here. And you have to take a step back and remember that the Trump administration has gone from a targeted immigration enforcement policy that looked for individuals who maybe had public safety risks to just an indiscriminate targeting of everyone. And as a result, they're pulling in people who really, if this country were doing what it should be doing, which is trying to pass a immigration reform providing a pathway to citizenship, these would be the folks who would be first in line for citizenship status. And instead, they're being put into line for deportation. And what we know is that when they have legal assistance in that process, they often win before the judge. The judge finds that the facts of their case support their being granted relief and being allowed to stay. And unfortunately, many people do not have the funds to get that legal assistance. And so we want to make sure that if a resident has financial hardship, that they'll still be able to make their case before a judge. That's really what this is all about. And we've got to just hold the line as best we can until this country gets back on track and starts focusing on what we're supposed to be focusing on, which is a comprehensive immigration reform policy. And that's really the ultimate solution here.
How about in terms of the concerns that the state's attorney raised, that the exceptions for those with criminal records didn't go far enough, didn't include things like extortion, which they have had a number of cases out of Wheaton Langley that have actually gone to federal court and been successfully prosecuted. What's your take there? And what are you tweaking, changing the bill?
Oh yeah, definitely. We had a very good meeting with the state's attorney last week, and we're very open to adding additional items to the list of offenses. And generally speaking, we first of all, generally speaking, the folks who we're trying to help, are not only law-abiding, they're much less likely to break the law than, documented residents. Now, that's the unknown story, of course, about immigration in general. But we are adding to that list, and we have no real objection to doing that. In general, there are not a lot of individuals who are in these kinds of proceedings who have criminal histories. Most of those individuals actually go through those proceedings while they're in prison. And these are folks who've been released to the community. They've served their time. But we're comfortable drawing the line there and saying, if you have such a conviction, we're not going to be able to provide support to you.
I just want to follow up on Neil's question, because when asked about the successes of the MCEDC over the last 2 years, you cited biotech and vaccine, which existed before the MCEDC existed. So what exactly has the MCEDC done in the last 2 years that you can say is part of, what would you call it, the white hot parts of economic development in the county?
I don't think I said white hot, but
Did I make that up? I'm sorry.
something close. Okay, so what are the successes of the Economic Development Corporation?
Sure.
I might need a little staff here. Yeah, my economic development team is not here. They are a new organization. They are growing. They have helped us build consensus around economic development. They have helped engage the business community in a positive way. They have, I think, helped improve the dialogue. And in fact, if you look over the last couple years, I think you would see a much more positive dialogue about economic development in Montgomery County. And then, in comes this attempt to overturn the apple cart and get everyone shooting at each other once again. But, we have been working together as a county more effectively with the business community, getting focused on things that really matter, like our talent. One of the strengths of the Economic Development Corporation is that they have helped us understand that our chief economic asset is the talent of our workforce. And that's what matters. And so we have put more of a focus on our WorkSource Montgomery program and building pathways from school into careers and supporting Montgomery College and supporting our schools. And they've helped us understand that those are smart investments, that that's an effective approach to economic development. So as a council member, I consider that to be moving the ball forward and constructive engagement. And we have had a number of new businesses come in. We've provided a number of incentives that they have helped to negotiate, and I'd be glad to get you a list of those. I don't happen to have them in my paper, but I can follow up with those.
Okay,
With you with those, yeah.
Please.
Just on the discovery question again, I was looking back through the timeline of how that whole thing happened, and I was reading a Knoxville paper that said Knoxville officials, as well as Tennessee Governor Bill Haslam, started meeting with Discovery officials as soon as the Scripps deal was announced. That was July 30th. Do you know when Montgomery County or Maryland officials first started meeting with Discovery about a potential move of the headquarters?
Yeah, I don't have that information. I know that we were in conversation with them about their their Silver Spring headquarters and relocating them, some of their functions within Silver Spring. And we were actually, in conversation with them at that time. Mm-hmm. And we, in fact, provided incentive to them to build a new capacity in Silver Spring.
That was in September. The deal was announced July 30th.
Right.
And so at that time, do you know if Montgomery County even knew that they were considering maybe moving out or maybe moving operations to Knoxville?
I'd have to refer you to the county executive. That's really that executive function of the state, the governor.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the deportation, what would be some of the crimes that would be added to that list that are being considered?
I can get you the list after. I think I can get you the list. We had what we thought was an extensive list of crimes based on actual incidents and kind of a practical estimation of what we might face with. So we've received a request to add more, and we're happy to do that. And that said, again, the number of individuals coming through with any crimes in these circumstances is very, very small. So just that's something to keep in mind.
And on the deportation, is there council support for this? Is there a majority of council members that already back this measure?
Absolutely. I mean, this was introduced as a full council measure, and I think there's strong support for it at the council. There is a legislative process, and we will consider changes to it, but in dialogue with my colleagues, there has been very strong support for this.
I'm sorry, normally I know this, but have all the council members co-sponsored it? Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think it was introduced as a full council legislation because all council members had endorsed it.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to go back to something you mentioned earlier about metro funding. You touched on it anyway. So what is the council thinking, or how will let me rephrase it, how will the council hold Metro accountable for all of the money that it's now going to receive?
Well, that is a great question, and I think that is kind of the next agenda item for us. So I am trying to actually reach out to Metro authorities to have them come and present to us a little later in the year. And, I think you put your finger on something that's really crucial for Maryland and for Montgomery County now. Now that the funding is there, Montgomery County needs to identify what are our top priority projects and where are they in the queue and how do we get them up in the queue. So we've got some work to do on our end now to really focus in on what we want to get out of the construction budget as a result of our contribution to the funding. And then we've got to work with Metro to make sure that that happens. So it's the beginning of that process, but that is absolutely one of the biggest jobs that we've got to do now over the rest of this year and into next year. All right. Doug, last question?
Governor Hogan said that 3 weeks ago, state and I guess county officials met with Amazon at Strathmore. Is there anything you can say about that meeting?
No.
One other question, actually. Since fiscal 14, the pay for fire, police, and McGeo employee unions has risen about 10% standard wage, plus another 20% service increments for those who have received merit increases. This year, the council is scheduled to approve another 2% general pay increase and 3.5% service increments for these employees. Do you think this level of pay increases for county employees is sustainable? Just every year, 5.5% for qualifying employees since fiscal 14?
Yeah, I do. I mean, a lot of those increases are catch up for years when there were not increases provided. Having said that, as I said last week at the committee meeting, I think that we have to now take a look at what the next couple of years are going to be like and really get a handle on what our fiscal situation is going to be. Because I think we have caught up now, and we need to have a better understanding of what our revenue situation is going to be over the next couple years. And we need to be very cautious about, additional increases in the future.
Do you know what percentage of those union employees receive the service increments as opposed to just the general wage?
It's typically between half and 2/3 every year, right? I see Ken is waving his hand. About half.
For each union.
Yeah, it depends on the bargaining unit. It just depends on a lot of different factors.
Okay.
It certainly is not, it's about half.
Do those increments come at the same time, or those contracts written, in other words, if it's a 3-year, do you see firefighters and police coming up at the same time, or are they staggered? Are those step increases?
Increments, the service increments would come at the anniversary date of the employee.
Okay.
So when they hit their 15-year mark, or when they hit their 12-year mark. And it's different per bargaining unit.
It's not at 12 years. It's every
No,
year.
but
No,
I
that's
understand
every
what it
year,
is.
yeah.
I got you. And can I, just for a split second, on the CARE bill,
The appropriation.
Yeah. Is that a one-time appropriation, or is that something that will be put into the budget each year?
Well, our goal is to get this program up and running, and we are hoping that that private philanthropy will kind of rally behind us and fund it in an ongoing way in the future. So that is certainly how we're envisioning it, is we have an urgent need now, and we need to move quickly now. And so that's what this appropriation is doing, but we're also planning that we will see private philanthropy step into that role.
So is it fair to say it's the county council's hope that this is a one-time thing for county expenses and that private entities will fill the gap in future years?
I would just say it's definitely the county's intention that private philanthropy will step up and fund it. Whether it exactly is 100%, we'll work on it as we go forward. But we are trying to, again, rally the community. We know that this is a very high priority for our community, and there's a lot of interest in seeing us do this. So, we're calling on the community to join in this effort and support it philanthropically.
All right, anybody else? Thanks.
All right, thank
Thank you
you.
very much.